Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Melissa and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. So normally I focus on frugality. Normally the focus of frugal living is the frugal part. Because it's kind of my thing. Today I'm going to focus a little more on the living part. I have my own political beliefs, and I'm sure you have your own political beliefs. And I don't want to make this about politics, so please do not come at me in the comments about politics. Because to me, this is actually really an important thing. So, today I heard that Trump is doing the whole forcing pharmacies to lower their drug prices. Which sounds good, probably, right? Who doesn't want lower prescription costs? I mean, for crying out loud, we pay way too much for our prescription drugs in America. Right? Anybody remember 2020? Way back in 2020. In case you don't remember, there was a pandemic going on. Like a whole worldwide pandemic. There were protests, there was riots, there was fires, there was people storming Capitol buildings. I'm not even talking about the January 6th thing. I mean, I'm talking people got like all up in arms and stormed like a state Capitol building about masks. And there was the election, and half the people were celebrating and half the people were denying. There was an insurrection. A lot went on in 2020. Like that last year, it was rough. So I would not be surprised if you did not remember this. But I do. So the whole prescription thing, it's like the, what is it, First Nation something, I can't remember. He called it the same stinking thing back in 2020. Same stinking thing. He was pretty heavy-handed about it before, too. Thing is it got reversed. There was a lawsuit, it got reversed like 7 to 10 days later. How do I know? Because we all were concerned about elections and election denial and pandemics and insurrections and everything else. I was concerned about losing somebody I loved. You see, a lot of us think of prescriptions, we think of antibiotics, right? Something that gets prescribed temporarily. You might think of something like regular drug therapies, blood pressure, inhalers for asthma, whatever. Things that you tend to have on stock, right? Like right now I have, probably like a 70 to 80 day supply left of my meds, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look. I get them in like 90-day increments. So, yeah. But there's other drugs that aren't as easy to get. Things like chemo and infusion therapies. Now, I don't know if you know this, but most people who take chemo or infusion drugs are really sick people. They aren't doing the greatest. They either tend to have cancer or some sort of a progressive disease. Occasionally, it's an autoimmune disease with the chemo, with a more mild chemo. Sorry. But nonetheless, people who are on those drugs normally need them. You can't just wait on them. You can't just use your old inhaler. So, the other thing is it's not like you can just like run to the pharmacy and pick some up. They have to send your prescription to the infusion center, whether it's in the hospital or the clinic or whatever. So this person I loved, a few years earlier had almost died without this drug. This drug saved their life. And I was aware of how quickly they would turn if they did not get their dose. They were too. And these aren't expensive. $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a dose. Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Definitely not cheap drugs. The infusion nurse called and said the pharmacy's not sending your prescription. He said, well, what if we pay cash? They said, nope. No insurance, no cash. They are not sending it. So I got ready to say goodbye because either this person was moving out of the country and I would never see them again, or they were going to die and I would never see them again. Because some things you can't take a heavy-handed approach to. Because pharmaceutical companies don't give two shits about you or I. They caused the opioid epidemic. Them and careless doctors getting kickbacks. They only cared about money. Everybody talks about fentanyl and this, that, and the other. Don't forget, it was pharmaceutical companies and doctors that caused this crisis. Don't ever forget that. And do not forgive them for it. And the thing is that Bernie Sanders is also writing a bill to mirror it. To mirror Trump's executive order. And how often do those two agree on anything? I can't think of anything I've heard them agree on. I really think that if one of them said the sky was blue, the other would tell them it was green. They cannot agree on anything, it seems. But they seem to, I mean, the fact that he's writing a bill that mirrors it. But the thing is giving the pharmaceutical companies 6 months to comply. So it got struck down in court the last time. The person I loved got their medication and they lived and they're still alive with us today. Excuse me. The thing is that this has been a concern of mine for at least a year. Because I remembered it. Now on top of it, I am on medications that I need. I won't die, but my quality of life will be diminished. Like, diminished. Like, you will see a completely different person. I require medication to be functional. And I can't lose it. And I'm sure a lot of you have it too. I mean, not have the same thing as me, but have a medication that you need. So everybody talks about like stocking your pantry and stuff. And I'm not really much of a prepper. I mean, like, I guess the way I shop kind of like gives me that benefit because I always have food. and stuff. But your medications are important. You need to make sure you have your prescriptions. Talk to your doctor, see if you can get like a longer prescription amount or something. Just be prepared. Because if the pharmaceutical companies decide to throw a kink in it and say, we don't need Americans' business, if this is yet another thing that goes sideways, we could all be spending Christmas without a loved one. Don't let that loved one be you. And again, I want to say I'm not an alarmist, but I do notice things. Like, my brain processes information in a weird way. I think in a weird way, and I get it. Like, if you saw what I saw in my head, you'd be like, wow, she is really weird. But it's kind of like the eggs. I told y'all that the egg thing was not as big of a deal as it was, and that, you know, they were price gouging and stuff. Some people believed me, some people didn't. But the thing is, dude, all of a sudden around Easter, and remember, I do ship, so I'm in a lot of stores, I started seeing eggs that were expiring in a few days. How come all of a sudden these eggs, you had no eggs on the shelf for weeks, and now all of a sudden you have eggs finally, but they expire in 3 days? You held those eggs until 3 days before they expire and then shipped them to your stores. And I am sorry, but there was way too many stores for this to be done at the store level. Way too many different stores, different corporations, different locations. You know, if it had been one store in one location, I would have said, oh, dude, somebody's going to be in trouble because they put a rack of eggs behind a milk or something and got it lost. But I saw it too many times. So y'all thought I was crazy about the eggs, and I was obsessed about it, but I was right. I have been right about a lot of things in my life. When I was 19, I said, pretty soon, nobody's going to have a landline. Before I die, pretty much nobody's going to have a landline. Everybody's going to have a cell phone. And at 19, I lived on my own, and I only had a cell phone. I had friends whose parents wouldn't let them, friends who were older than me but lived at home, whose parents wouldn't let them come over to my house because I didn't have a landline, and they said that was not safe. Now, mind you, I lived in like a sleepy safe town. And granted, we used to like sit on the roof, which, you know, 911 could be dangerous kind of thing. But everybody laughed at me. And sure enough, how many of y'all have landlines now? I remember really liking Taylor Swift, and really, when she sang Teardrops on the Guitar, and saying, I really think this young lady has something to her. I think she is going to be super famous. And people are telling me she is a one-hit wonder. And I laugh about that. I laugh at the number of people who told me and made fun of me for liking Taylor Swift when I was younger, and told me she was going to be a one-hit wonder. Sometimes people just notice things. And I really hope I'm wrong. I hope it does not play out the same way it did in 2020. I hope the pharmaceutical companies decide to be reasonable. And we all want cheaper prescription drug prices, and we deserve it. But not if it means somebody has to die. Because that's a price I'm not willing to pay. Now, if this is your first time here, I am normally not political. Again, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I have my own political views. I choose not to discuss them because I really want this to be a landing place for everybody. I know I have people divided across the aisle. I know I have some people that are, you know, more conservative, some people that are more liberal, and that's okay. As long as you are respectful, that's okay. Because again, this is something that Trump and Bernie Sanders agree on. Everybody thinks this needs to happen. My concern is the heavy-handed nature, and with how everything has gone sideways, if pharmaceutical companies decide to fight back, they're going to do it at the cost of our lives. So make sure you have your meds. Anyways, again, my name's Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. If you want to hear more, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.